It's the Indiana Geeking Podcast with special guests Lee and Ed. Yay!
Others have claimed me to be mad, maybe insane, but I'm not crazy. Honest, I am just lazy as I sit here with my guys because I have no money to buy fries. The bits, what others throw away, I will use to sustain me. The bits, the fried crispy remains of the fries others have claimed me to be mad. Throw away, I will use to sustain me. The bits, the fried crispy remains of the fries others have claimed. The bits, what others throw away, I will use to sustain me. The bits, the fried crispy run up of the fries at the fry shop. Oh yeah.
Welcome back to the Indiana Geeking Podcast, my friends. We are sitting here in the Geek Cave studios, and I have a couple of local creators across the table from me. So, gentlemen, go ahead, introduce yourselves, and please let me know, why are you in my house?
Well, my name is Ed Cho. I'm the writer for a comic book called Little Guardians.
And I'm Lee Schrolis. I'm the artist for the comic called Little Guardians.
All right, excellent.
And I guess we're in your house to talk to you about that comic.
and you brought beverages with you, which makes me happy.
You're welcome.
They don't give me any money, so we won't advertise for them. All right, so you're here. You guys have created and you do the comic Little Guardians. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I obviously know what it is, but for everybody else, what is Little Guardians?
Little Guardians is about village kids fighting demons badly. It's an all-ages fantasy adventure series about a little girl. Kind of has to figure out why this strange spirit panther is following her around and discover a path to her true destiny.
So, how did Little Guardians, how did you get it started?
So, Lee and I met 2007 as part of the IWG, which is Indy Webcomics group. Mm-hmm. We were working on our own comic stuff at the time. He was doing a strip, kind of a slice of life strip, and I was doing a comic strip about my cats at the time. And we just kind of became friends. And that's what the group is for. It's Indianapolis people who are into comic books or comic strips or who just like to draw or talk about geek stuff. We get together and do that. And we became friends and decided, let's work on something together. So we decided to create this kind of all-ages fantasy adventure story. I think probably a few years later after we first met. And we started it online in 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
And then we hit the convention circuit when we had enough pages, did some self-publishing, hooked up with Scout Comics not too long ago. Mm-hmm. And
coming up on a year on that.
Put some issues out in stores this year, and our first collected trade will be out December 20th. So coming up pretty soon for the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that's how it got started. What inspired this story?
So a lot of the story. So when Lee and I first met, we just kind of became friends, as I said, and I approached him about working together, and I did not have a script in my back pocket where I just was like, kablam, here it is. This is what we're doing. So we kind of threw some ideas around, and we were playing a video game at the time called
PixelJunk Monsters.
PixelJunk Monsters, which was a tower defense game where a little tiki guy had to create the little traps or whatever for the monsters that would come to attack it. So that at its very core is kind of the...
He was protecting a little village of other little guys.
There you go. So that is the genesis of Little Guardians. We ripped off...
Stole it from a video
We stole
game.
it from a video game.
And then there's also a lot of other inspiration in there from all the Japanese RPGs that Ed loves to play and from all the fantasy novels that I love to read. So we just kind of combined all of those ideas into the story that we kind of wanted to tell with and I'm very much influenced by Terry Pratchett and Jim Butcher style characters that that you could definitely see some character types that I'm obviously inspired by when I designed the look of the characters. Ed can speak more to...
Yeah, so we kind of had this fantasy setting, and I'll come clean. I actually don't read a lot of fantasy, although I have now. But at the time, I really didn't at that time. So I drew more from...
You've read all Game of Thrones by now, right?
By now, yes. Yeah. So today, I've read more fantasy than I did in 2007. So I drew upon a lot of old 90s RPG, like Japanese RPG games like the Final Fantasy series, Shining Force, Lunar, a lot of these old games and their kind of storylines. So a lot of the Little Guardian stories actually very much influenced by some of the characters in those stories more than a traditional book.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, that original PixelJunkie, what was that on?
PixelJunk Monsters. You had a PS3.
Yes, it was a PlayStation Network game. It was like downloadable only.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
PixelJunk
it was.
has done a bunch of different games under PixelJunk Runner, PixelJunk Monsters, PixelJunk this, that.
Oh, okay.
But that's where the tiki vibe, because I think originally you were going to make it even more cartoony than it currently came out.
Yeah, big wooden masks, that kind of stuff.
And some of the Indonesian or tiki, I don't know what you want to call it, flavor is still in the comic with like
Just a
the face
little bit.
paintings
A
and
little bit, yeah.
yeah, it's baked in.
You can taste the real Polynesian flavor.
You can taste it, yeah.
All right. Now, I think I've talked to you guys. We've kind of bounced around, talked about this a little bit before conventions and stuff. If I remember correctly, did you say that this is a story that does have a definite arc and a definite end to it? It's not something you see as ongoing, or am I remembering this wrong?
It's yes and no. So we have a definitive ending to this story arc, and it's very far away. But it opens itself up to a second story. Which
You already started writing.
which just recently I've started writing. We may never get to it. We may never even get to the end of this story, unfortunately. Who knows what time unfolds. But I decided I have enough ideas for this Little Guardians 2, I've been kind of calling it. And I've actually started writing some of it recently.
Too Little, Two Guardians.
Yeah, that's right.
No Electric Boogaloo?
I hate that title so much. I stopped making that joke.
I'm not.
What'd you call it? Too Little, Two Guardians?
Too Little, I like Too Fast, Too Furious.
That's awesome.
It's because you've got the whole Fast and the Furious thing stuck, because you're part of the once a month group watching the movies.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Which we have
We call
talked
it Night
about
of the Furious.
we have talked about that on the previous podcast when
Yeah.
we were talking about pitch. So
Nice.
see, and it all ties together.
That's
That's,
right.
that's this season.
One
of
by
the
one, you're
Indie Geeky.
interviewing each member of that movie night group.
Now, you said in the past year you started going from self-publishing and showing this online to working with a publisher, Scout Comics. How did all that come to be?
I was out in Baltimore Comic Con in, I guess it was late 2016, and I was approached by Michael Sanchez.
Michael Sanchez.
Yeah, Michael Sanchez is one of their guys. And he really liked Little Guardians, loved the look of it. And then he wanted to come back and talk to us more. And the next day he came back and he like snapped some pictures of our stuff and sent it to the people at Scout. And he said they liked the look of it. And he was just getting a really good reaction. And he kept coming back to talk to me like a couple times that day, and then like the next day as well. It was like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday con, and I'm like, well, he seems to really like us. So I took his card and we followed up with him after the con and talked for a while and just kind of started working out what a relationship with Scout Comics will look like, and it just kind of went from there.
You see, your answers are going too quick. We're working for a little bit more here, man.
Well, I mean, that's all it is. That's the end of a very long story of going to cons for 6 years. Like, we made press packets, we made pitch packets, we submitted to all kinds of publishers over the years, and just never gave up and kept going to cons. Like every time I go to a con, and you go home and you sift through all the business cards and follow up on leads and go and do panels and talk to your friends who are with publishers and get info that way and get contacts that way. And, that's just like, and then one day a publisher walked up to our table. That's just, sometimes it happens like that. And sometimes you send out hundreds of press packets and one of them gets a thing. So, I don't even think like, well, okay. All the years of work did lead up to that, I think, because it helped polish our table presence. Like our banner caught his eye, or our book covers did, or I just went to enough conventions that law of large numbers, and one of them I would like find a person at and like cross paths that way. It's kind of like, yeah, the end of the story goes quick. Like, they found us and we talked to them, and then now we put out some books through them. I mean,
well, I think one of the big takeaways is we didn't just not make the thing we wanted to make because a publisher wouldn't agree to publish it. So when we first started kicking a story idea and wanting to make comics, we did initially send out proposals to like Image Comics and then and some other small press publishers, and didn't really hear back. Instead of going, oh, well, that's the end of that, we said, let's just do it ourselves. And we decided to do it online. We decided to self-publish it. We printed it ourselves. And we actually hadn't submitted to a publisher really since the beginning. We did an initial push, and then we really went all in on self-publishing. And
focused on that.
And we really enjoyed that. And really, we tried to maximize what we could, doing some conventions farther away, like Baltimore, like Toronto, like Seattle. We were looking into different types of distribution, and it was kind of fun to really try to figure out that piece of it.
I never stopped looking, though. Every time I saw like cool submission guidelines or like a publisher that looked neat, like that was a good fit, I'd still like look into it and like see if it was a good fit for Little Guardians.
But we never sent out any submission packets other than that initial run, I don't think.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I mean, we certainly kept our eyes open, and if Marvel Comics said, hey, we're going to put you on our roster, we probably would have said yes. But
who doesn't want some of that fat Disney money?
That's right. That's right.
Now, speaking of money, I know you guys are talking.
Oh, shoot. Do I owe you money? That's why you invited me to your house. It's all a ruse.
Yeah, so are you enjoying that beverage?
Dope.
Are you going to want the antidote?
Duh.
Shit, that was what your nosebleed was about.
It was.
The poison's already taken effect.
Well, actually, I'm part of the Hawkins lab, and I just Stranger Thinged it in here.
Did you see Stranger Things 2?
I'm in the middle of season 2. I'm not a binge watcher. I'm very conscientious on how I
do like an episode
how I consume my media. I don't binge.
Yeah, I know Lainey was always just like at the end of an episode, it's like, just one more left on a cliffhanger.
See,
everyone does that.
See, I don't do that. I get to the end of it, I go, that was cool. I want to digest that and then do something else. So I'm about halfway through season 2, and it's great. I think it's great.
We set aside a Sunday, had a friend over, and watched the whole thing.
Just binged it? Yeah.
No, we started the week before Halloween, and then had a lull in there. And
What
then
a great
finished
show
up.
to come out around Halloween.
Yeah.
We finished up on Thanksgiving Day. We watched the last 2 episodes.
Nice.
The evening of Thanksgiving after we had all the
That's a
celebrations.
cozy way to spend time with family. I love that. Great.
But what I was getting ready to ask was, speaking about money, it jogged my memory back when you had the active Patreon.
Oh, yeah.
For it. You were actually working towards colorizing all of your previous black and white work. So you were working towards putting out the colored version of the book before you even signed on.
And Scout kicked us in our butt to get it done. So previously we had a lofty...
They didn't, make us...
No, but we had... When they wanted to put it on issues... We hadn't had it all colored, so we said
we see this coming out in color. We're like, we agree.
Yes,
now we will actually really and we'd already started paying colorists and already had color pages in the works, but this just turned on the fire on that burner. No longer a back burner. Move to the front.
That's right.
It is now out there. It is in color.
Now it is.
And we still have the Patreon, so please check it out. We're still needing to pay colorists as we go, so please, the Patreon money goes towards colorists. And exclusively, yeah. And as a patron, if you submit anything, which is monthly, you get early access to pages. So, for instance, book 2 we're working on right now, and our patrons are seeing.
They're already seeing color pages from book 2.
For book 2.
Mm-hmm. You see, for some reason I hadn't looked, so I thought now that you had gone with Scout, it had kind of fallen to the wayside.
Nope, we're still doing it.
So I gotta throw my customary, hey, I love you guys, but I don't have much money, here's $1.
No, that's fine. That's great.
We do need to refresh the Patreon, though. I think then I would start pushing it a lot more visibly. We just need to clean up the level tiers and manage the rewards we promise, but we're still putting out new content on the Patreon every week.
Oh, excellent. And you'll be able to find the link to that in the notes attached to the blog post.
Check out the link in the show notes. I love being able to say that. That's so much fun.
I am glad that I was able to help you mark that off your bucket list.
Cha-ching!
I like that you pointed.
40 by 40?
Yeah.
At least I'm assuming it's 40 by 40. I don't think I've ever nailed down how old you are, but we're not going to talk
Less
about
than
that.
40.
Okay. Yeah, okay, so I'm still old. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I understand. So
you said it, not me.
So, I know you say this is going to take a while. Is there any other projects that you guys have been thinking about working on? Any other comics? Any other ideas you've been bouncing around? I know you said you had your own work that you were working on when you first met. I know you occasionally, Ed, you put some stuff up about your kids.
Yeah, so recently, just for kicks, I've started just doing little strips. And I used to do a strip about my cats. And so now I've started one loosely based on my kids, who are 7 and 2 right now, just because they are little cartoon characters running around. But it's nice because I'm just doing them as the inspiration hits me, as opposed to doing it as a webcomic where I have to get a page done this week. It's just because I also have to raise the kids, so that takes time, a lot of my time.
Isn't it nice not having a deadline?
Yes.
Probably would put more
on the comics
stress
or the kids.
If you had a weekly deadline. But
The kids, once they're 18, they're gone.
But that is really nice. I do like the I really feel like doing that thing right this moment, so I can, and then next couple of days maybe not. But it's really nice to have that flexibility. Let's see. For me, after Little Guardians, what I'll probably do is a sketchbook or an art book. I've always wanted to do one of those coffee table books that's just full of Lee art. Maybe it has a focus, a theme, but I haven't decided on it yet. I don't know if I'll jump right into another comic or not. Obviously, if there was if I come across a good opportunity or a project I want to work on, I might consider that. But right now, if I have my druthers, I'd just be doing cool art and posting it. If I had more time for that, that's what I'd be doing.
Okay. So as we're starting to wind down what I have on notes, not necessarily winding down our recording, but For moving on, is there anything else about all this you would like to throw out on the internet? Is there anything like you've sat down on a podcast, you'd hope that they'd ask you about this, and it's just never come up?
Well, I know. I mean, right now for us, I mean, we're waiting on the book to be in our hands. Again, coming out December 20th, hopefully at your local comic store, or available if you pre-ordered it, or available through Scout Comics that you can buy it. Great gift for the holidays. Great all ages comic. So we are going to be promoting that for 2018. We'll be at some conventions next year.
All the local ones.
All the ones here in Indianapolis for the most part. We're definitely doing Indiana Comic-Con. We got accepted into C2E2 in Chicago, so we're excited. Last year we didn't make it, which was like
well,
what?
C2E2 is it's not guaranteed.
Yeah, because we always get in previous years, so we were like, what?
Not every year.
Every year we've applied, we've gotten in, except for last year.
I don't think so. I think we didn't do it 14 and 15. There was like a couple of years there we didn't go.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't think we applied.
I think our average is like every other year.
Yeah, we weren't going every year, but you just take it for granted when we were getting in. And what else do we have lined up for next year?
Heroes.
Oh, that's right. We're doing Heroes Con. Yeah, that'll be fun. That'll be a fun road trip.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've got a lot of shows coming up. We'll definitely be hitting the payment to get the word out about book one. Full color, really thick, 150-page trade paperback. It's going to be nice. I'm really excited to see.
Yeah, I can't wait to get them in my hands.
I know. That should be happening this week. I'm so excited.
I know.
Like, they just told us that we should be receiving our books this week. I'm like, yes. So good. Oh, so that means we have a book signing coming up at Comic Book University December 30th? No, 27th, I think.
That sounds right.
Yeah, Wednesday,
So it's
December.
a week. I was going to say it's a weeknight then.
Right.
It's Wednesday.
Yeah, the new comic day.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Wednesday. Yeah, at the time when I set up the book signing, we weren't 100% sure if it was going to be the 20th or 27th. So we said, we'll make it safe. We'll say the 27th. We will definitely have our books in hand by then so we can do the signing. But it would be really nice if it coincided with our street date. But just with the way things are trying to plan when things get shipped from a printer to Diamond and then when they get to stores, sometimes you don't know the release date until it's like right on you. So it just made more sense to like play it safe and schedule it for the 27th. So that's going to be fun. Let's see.
Oh, just out of curiosity, how was your experience up in Muncie?
Yeah, Aya Comics is fantastic, actually. It's a really nice store. Christy, who runs it, is really great. In fact, she gave us a nice quote for the back of our book. You'll see her name on the back cover. So, yeah, Christy's been awesome. We're excited to go back as soon as we line up another date with her, probably in January, I think.
Okay.
We'll be happy to go back up in Muncie, my old college stomping grounds. And Aya Comics is fantastic. If anyone's in the area, you should definitely check it out. It's a store worth going to. I brought, like, if you wanted to talk about what we're reading now, that's usually a good one.
What are you reading now?
Okay. As far as webcomics goes, one that I really like that just started back up after a hiatus is Barbarous, which is by Yuko Ota and Ananth. And Yuko and Ananth they're fantastic. Because their comic that they used to do called Johnny Wander is like one of those webcomics, like in the slice of life, like really funny, real life adventures kind of thing. But it like just lasted for so long, and the creators matured along the way, like the art and the writing. And by the end of it, you do some Kickstarters, you put out a fantastic volume. And did they win the Ignatz Award for graphic collection? I think they did this year. They definitely got nominated because I was at SPX this year, and definitely. I backed that Kickstarter, so that's when I got my copy of it. But the collected volumes of Johnny Wander called "Our Cats Are More Famous Than Us." It's a wonderful comic, and I love reading it. And the comic they're posting online right now, Barbarous, is really good, and that just came back. Like the next chapter is now posting online. I'm also reading comics like Witchy is a really great webcomic that I enjoy. I also really recommend On a Sunbeam by Tilly Walden. It's a beautiful story and a beautiful comic and a huge inspiration for me as I was working on book one, especially in the coloring department. Tilly's colors are amazing. And that it's not like realistically rendered in color. Like a lot of it is big sections of really bold, really nice color combinations. And the palette is just so like, it makes me feel so good. And I love like that, where the colors used a lot for mood and setting and stuff. Just not just grass is green, trees are brown. Like,
but grass is green.
Yeah, like
and trees are brown. Wait a second.
Sky is blue,
but trees are also green.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, but like I love it when it's more graphic, abstracted, and less representational in art. Like, but that's something I'm not that good at yet on myself. So I read a lot of stuff that gives me that, like, I want to get to that point. So I read a lot of this stuff for inspiration. But that reminds me, I brought with me a couple comics. So I would remember.
I was to say, they better be reminders because visual art does not translate well to an audio medium.
I just wanted to have it in front of me so I could remember if I was asked what were my either recommendations for something to read or what's inspiring you right now. I've got a couple. All right, the comic Extremity by Daniel Warren Johnson is a really great one. That's one of the only comics that I'm picking up in issues right now. And I think the trade might already be out. I need to go look and see if I can pick that up. And another one that I was really happy when I found it because of the color inspiration was Scales and Scoundrels, written by Sebastian Gierner and art by Galad. And the colors in this book are just amazing, and it's a really fun read. So those are what's kind of inspiring me right now.
And you can find those at your friendly local comic shop, or are they the sort of thing you'd probably want to put on a pull list?
I probably picked those up at Hero House in Fountain Square.
Ah. The House of Written.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
The House of Written. The Hero House
He's
of
not
Written.
going to listen to this.
No, he probably won't.
Hi, Mike.
He doesn't. I think I've talked to him before. I don't think he listens to podcasts.
That's okay.
So,
what are you reading right now?
What am I reading right now? I was just peeking at my Kindle app.
I just saw you post on Facebook. You're like, I just finished reading this book. It was really great. What was that?
Well, I just started a book called The Knicks by Nathan Hill, and it's awesome. Mm-hmm. I'm only like 100 pages in, but I recommend it. What did I read recently? Dark Matter is really good by Blake Crouch. Mm-hmm. It is like Rick and Morty, but not ridiculous. Like,
weird. So multi-dimensional?
Yeah, it has the multiverse in it, and I was enjoying it, and then it occurred to me, like, this is just Rick and Morty, except straight. Like, without it being just horribly insane.
Straight up Rick and Morty?
I tried to read The Martian, but I couldn't get into it. I love the movie, but I just could not get into the book.
That's interesting, because I really enjoyed the book. The book I was just kind of...
Yeah.
Well, it's Matt Damon, you know.
Matt Damon. We just watched A Man Called Uva, which is a book I read that's fantastic. It's a Swedish author, and they did a Swedish film, which is a really good adaptation. Like, one of the best adaptations I've seen in a long time.
A Swedish adaptation of a Swedish book?
Yes. Nice. Just warn you, it was subtitled. That's why I say it is Swedish.
Oh, okay.
We rented it, and we're like, I have to read. But I've already read the book. But the book is good. The movie's good.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all bork, 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 and with the
Swedish
subtitles.
Correct.
All of it. Yeah.
That's what I was hearing, but then I was reading amazing dialogue and
My life as a Swedish chef.
Yep, pretty much. And comic book wise, I just started Paper Girls, which is
Brian K. Vaughan, right?
Yeah, kind of reminds me of Stranger Things, actually. I don't know. I'm assuming Paper Girls came first, but there's a lot of similarities. And I'm not far into Paper Girls, but I'm seeing a lot of kids on bikes and monsters in the 80s. And there's a lot of... if there was a Venn diagram, it'd have a hefty middle.
Well, you know, if as someone that was a kid in the 80s, I can tell you there was a lot of bicycles and monsters. Mm-hmm. So that's just kind of normal for the time period.
Everyone had their monster fighting team.
You know, in Stranger Things, and I don't know their names, but the kid that has the little microphone or whatever,
Dustin?
Yeah, how did he
Yeah.
get this microphone? Did they have that in the 80s? What is
Well,
he?
they're in the AV club. He probably had that.
But still, I think, like, what?
It was a little high tech.
Like, he has a cell phone? Like, what does he have? It's a
Well, no, but
walkie-talkie?
It's got a wire to it, but yeah, it's just going to his walkie-talkie.
He goes to his walkie-talkie. Okay, I thought that was odd.
I thought it looked a
Yeah.
little high tech, but I'm like, those are AV nerds. Like, they'll have the latest stuff.
They're AV nerds, and I'll be honest, that was the sort of thing I really wish I had when I was a kid, because that means I didn't have to hold the microphone up here, or the walkie-talkie up here. I could have the walkie-talkie clipped to the belt.
And that's a way
I'd have the
cooler
headset up there.
But there you go.
And you know what? Hey,
And Dustin is the coolest of them, so it makes sense for me that he would have that.
And speaking of Brian K. Vaughan, I just finished Y the Last Man.
Finally.
Finally. It was good.
Little late to party.
It's a strange ending, is all I'll say. I don't know if you guys have
We
read
don't
the
wanna
whole
spoil
thing,
it.
but it's just very different than
I've
what
read
I was
most of it.
expecting. Did you get to
I've seen it on a shelf. That's about
Did you
it.
get
Did you
to-
get to this spoilery point? that
Well,
we're
did you
about
get to
talk about?
why he's the last man and why all the men are dying off? Did you get to that point?
Probably not.
Okay, because I was disappointed by that explanation, is all I will say.
Oh, okay.
Well, isn't that why it's called Why the Last Man?
Is it?
Well, Y chromosome, the last one.
I know. Yeah. But he's going, why he's
Yeah,
the last
why?
man?
Why?
And why? It's like, well, yes,
Tell me
because
why,
it's
sir.
why.
Well, the because isn't that great. Is all I'm saying. The why is very good, but the because I was a little, I'm not sure about that.
Well, I'm going to balance that with another strong female protagonist recommendation. Fantasy series that I've been reading. A friend got me into Tamora Pierce, fantasy author, and I've been reading all of her books. I'm on like the 13th one now.
That's all.
Well, the first four follow the character Alana, the Lady Knight, like she's Alana the Lioness, and so it's the Song of the Lioness series is the first four books, and then after that is the Immortals series, and you follow Dane for 4 books, and then you read Protector of the Small, which is Kel's books, and she has 4 books, and right now I'm on a prequel series to that world, following Becca Cooper, and like I'm up to my head in fantasy, strong female
Wow.
protagonist fantasy characters, and it is wonderful reading, and I love it so much. So that's what I'm reading right now. I highly recommend Tamora Pierce to anybody.
All right. And I'm assuming when you're talking about the Immortals, this has nothing to do with people in trench coats carrying swords.
No,
There's no Queen soundtrack to it.
Highlanders, No quickening, none of that. No. But by immortals, they just mean mythical creatures like griffins and.
Do they live forever? Do they live forever?
Oh yeah, they do, unless you kill them.
Unless you kill them. Gotcha.
And that always the way. Yeah,
That's yeah.
yeah. Well,
One caveat: you can't be killed.
yeah.
Everyone lives forever until they die.
That's true.
That makes no sense.
That is what that entire series is about. No, it is not.
So on that nonsensical note, where can we find you guys online?
You can always find us at littleguardianscomic.com. Little Guardians Comic has a Twitter, L Guardians Comic at Twitter.
Yep.
Facebook is Little Guardians, or facebook.com/Little Guardians. We're also on, I also post Little Guardian stuff whenever I have it ready on my Instagram and Tumblr. You can find those at Lee Sharolis, Tumblr or Instagram. We're also on Twitter personally. I'm at Lee Sharolis. Ed is at EdCho7000.
You got it.
Yeah. Ed's on Facebook, but probably don't go look him up there. I don't know.
I don't even think I'm friends with you on Facebook.
Oh, okay.
So it's
Well, I mean, you do post your comics there sometimes, but I don't know if it's just mostly you and your family stuff.
Yeah, for whatever reason, I've made my Facebook private and my Twitter. Well, I don't know if you can make Twitter private, but yeah,
yeah, you can try, but then all someone has to do is
Do you
log
post the
out,
comics
but-
on Twitter?
Yeah,
yeah. I
that's
do.
how I've seen them.
I think I follow way too many people on Twitter, so when you post, like, it's just swallowed immediately.
Oh, okay. But you
Yeah.
see it on Facebook.
Yeah, I do see it on Facebook. I follow fewer people on Facebook.
So-
But you can find us there. If you are local and you just want to talk comics, please come to the Indy Webcomics Group meetups. It's once a month in the Indianapolis area, sometimes South Side, sometimes Central or East Side. If you actually have a great location where at least 15 people can meet up comfortably, we will go do the meetup there. Like, it doesn't have to be South or East Side.
I have heard a recent request for another Grand Bullies meetup.
Grand Bullies? Okay, sweet. Excellent. Yeah, we have a friend with a Grand Bullies connection, and we will meet up there. They have a nice long table, and we spread out the huge roll of white paper, and we all draw on the table. It's a lot of fun.
They have good pizza too.
Yeah, or we meet
and good sandwiches.
I think our next meetup is going to be at Comic Book University on the South Side,
December 30th.
And then after that, we'll probably do another library meetup or a Grand Bullies meetup. But it depends on the meetup. It's either very social, and we're just getting a bite to eat and talking about comics, or the ones at the comic shop or at a library, we actually set up our laptops or our paper and like work for a few hours, and like you can actually bring your stuff and get feedback and network with other creators, and it's a lot of fun that way. It's actually, the Indie Webcomics group is something I'm super proud of, that it's been around in Indianapolis now for 10 years, and it's still going strong. At least a meetup a month. If you can't make one, you can always make the next one. And we try to do things around the big conventions too. So if you run into us at like Indy at Indiana Comic-Con.
Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out?
This is why I actually purchased Who Let the Dogs Out. Is because she has interrupted enough podcasts that I will actually throw in Who Let the Dogs Out as I'm editing her barking out.
What do you mean by purchase? Like you purchased the rights to?
No, I just purchased the
song. Oh,
as opposed to like ripping it or downloading it illegally or something like that. I went and I purchased the MP3.
It is just like in this moment, it is worth it for me to buy this one song. But the Indie Webcomics group will be at Indiana Comic-Con. We'll probably set up a meetup like around the meetup, around the convention sometime, and we do that at Gen Con too. And and that you can find at meetup.com/Indie Webcomics, or Twitter at Indie Webcomics, or Facebook at Indie Webcomics. Yeah.
And whoever decides to keep sending out SEO spam for the Indie Webcomics group, I just attend the meetups. I have nothing to do with the actual group. Please stop emailing me about it.
Well, you're getting all our
You're
spam.
getting the
I'm
SEO?
getting your spam.
How did that happen?
It is going to indianageeking@gmail.com.
That is really
so
weird.
And I'm just like, why are you sending this to me? I mean, I'll take the bullet for you guys. You know, I'll
Just mark that as spam, make it go directly to your spam folder.
Oh no, that's where it is, but I always double check my spam folder.
Okay.
For example,
You're getting Indie Webcomics stuff in there. That's
That's
so
really
great.
weird.
I never got the tags for my license plates. They expired November 14th. I ordered them the beginning of November.
Oh, it went into your spam folder.
Well, and I sent a request, and the response went to spam. Now everything's taken care of. They're sending me replacement tags. Actually, great experience with the Bureau of Motor Vehicles. I am shocked.
Wow. Interesting.
But yeah, that's the reason I always check my spam folder, which is why I know I'm getting SEO spam for Indie Webcomics group.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for taking that bullet.
Not a problem. And thank you guys. Ed, did you want to throw anything else in on the internet, or did Lee pretty much take care of it all?
He has encompassed all of the internet.
Yeah.
You have encompassed all.
That was my
of the
complete short history of nearly everything.
There you go.
Bill Bryson, fantastic author.
And as always, all those links will be shown in the blog post attached to this episode. So you'll be able to just go to that post
It'll be a very long
and
book
do all
list.
of them.
Here's your homework, kids.
Great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
So,
thank
hey,
you.
thank you very much for stopping by and recording with me a little bit, and for the tasty beverages.
Oh, yeah.
So
Cheers.
appreciate
Speaking
it.
of, I want to open another.
And on that note, stick around for the outro and the thanks for the patrons, and I will catch you all probably in 2018. Have a good one. I'd like to thank everybody for listening to this episode of the Indiana Geeking Podcast. You can find the blog post for this episode, as well as information like Hoosier Convention listings, past podcast episodes, local geek shop reviews, and more at indianageeking.com. If you like what I'm doing, there are ways you can help. First, you can make sure you subscribe through Apple Podcasts, Google Music, Stitcher, or whatever your preferred podcatcher is. Also, if your method allows it, I'd love it if you left me a rating and review. Good or bad, it lets me know how I'm doing. If you'd like to help financially, you can visit the Support Geeking in Indiana link posted at the side of the blog, where you can learn how to support Team Geeking by shopping through Amazon, making a one-time donation via PayPal or Ko-fi, making a monthly donation through Patreon, or even buying Indiana Geeking merchandise through the shop or my merch links. All the music this week is courtesy of the Shakeups, who both Lee and Ed are members of. The opening song is The Bits, and the closing music I'm currently talking over is Keep Beach City Weird, both of which are off their album The Shakeups in Beach City. They're a local band who performs pop music based on pop culture. You can find their music at theshakeups.net, and remember, support local, friends. Of course, I don't want to forget to give a huge thanks to my $5 and above patrons for supporting the blog and podcast. One of their perks is a shout out on the cast, and I'm more than happy to give love to Becca, Claire, Kayla, Mal, Michael, Spencer, Tommy, and Tyler for their support. In addition, congratulations to Kayla, who is getting married next week on the 29th. Finally, thank you all for listening and your support. I'll see you next time, and always remember, live long and prosper, may the force be with you, and as always, be excellent to each other.
We're gonna cut this out, and I'm just gonna say I'll just say that part again because I want to get the name right.
I love how he's telling me how I'm going to edit this episode.
And you're gonna leave this all in because that's what people do. They always say you're gonna edit this out, right? And they never do.